Well, hi folks, this is Darren with My RV Works. Today we're just west of Port Angeles, Washington, and we're working on this Winnebago tour. They have a AquaHot system, and the customer states that the front half of their RV, that heating zone, is not getting heat. So what I'm going to do, and what I'm going to ask you to do, is I'm going to take this seemingly long video and break it up into small little sections, okay? So if you want to watch the whole video, what I'm going to ask you to do is navigate your way down to the description of this video, figure out how to do that, and we'll have links to the other videos. So this isn't like one long 20-hour video, it's a bunch of shorter, smaller ones, and that's going to help you say, I just need to know this, I just need to know this, I just need to know this. So that's the nature of the video. So hopefully it adds value to you. And so what I'm going to start with in this segment is we're going to dive into these electronics control boards, because if you understand how these boards work, you can tell a lot about how to diagnose the different zones, what the board is telling the unit to do, what the unit is telling the board is doing. And so what I want to do in this first video is really focus on the electronics control board. So what I have behind me right here is the AquaHot. We're going to go into that. That's what the nature of this first video is about. Then we're going to switch into another video where we're going to actually do the diagnosis using the information we learned on our first video on this, and then start following the trail into the coach, try to see if we can't figure out why they're not getting any heat to their front loops. Okay, so hope that helps, and let's dive in and get started. Okay, so this AquaHot, what is this? This is a 450D. Okay, so that really does not matter. AquaHot has basically three types of control systems. We'll call this one the electronics controller. Okay, the version after this is called the recorder, which is going to have a little device with an LED display, and the one previous to the electronic controller is a bunch of ice cube relays. Okay, so if you have this black panel, you have what I'll call the middle one. Okay, the one preceding this, you see those mostly on the AquaHot silver stainless steel boxes. Those are actually a little bit easier to control because it's all relay logic, okay? You could physically follow a wire through a relay. These have the electronic controller, and then, like I said, they're moving more towards the recorder, okay? But the bell curve of what we have out in the industry today is these electronic controllers. Now, as the AquaHot's working, you're going to be able to look. The lights are not very bright, but if you take your eyeball and look closely, you can tell the status of your unit based off of these lights, okay? And so I've got one here, okay? So this is what they look like, and we're about to take the cover off and look at it, and then we're gonna just start talking about what all this looks like, okay? But I just wanted to show you that this is what this video is gonna be about, this controller here. Now, let's take the screws off. We have 4 screws in the corner. The screw size is 8/32. So if you should lose a screw or need a screw, just get yourself a stainless steel 8/32 screw, and you can replace it. Okay, so take our screws off. And we're going to keep this cover nearby because we're going to need it to reference some of these statuses and things like that. So I'm going to just set it down here. It's probably out of your view, but here we have the board. So I'll either hold this up for you or I'll be referencing this. So I know what a lot of you are probably saying, like, oh my gosh, what am I looking at? I'm overwhelmed. Well, let's just pause for a second, because let's make this really simple, okay? And I think that's the best way I can add value to you. We're going to be talking about these lugs down here. These are called the JP terminals, JP1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, if we take this board, everything on the left-hand side, all these wires are coming from the coach or going from the AquaHot to the coach. So this is all coach-facing interface, okay? The jumpers on this side are all AquaHot burner-facing interface. So all of a sudden, we've just made this, if we could like cut this in half, this half of the board is all about talking to the burner itself, the electric heating element itself, the high limit, the low level sensors and all that kind of stuff. That's all this side of the board. This side of the board is all about the zone heating, the thermostat, the call for heat, and your switches inside your cabin. Okay, so wow, we've just made this really simple, haven't we? AquaHot side, RV side. Now, so maybe that helps just in knowing like, oh, okay, well, all these wires are not so bad. Let's even take it even deeper. Let's start with down here. Okay, down here on the bottom, if we look, I hope you're in the shot, it's going to say ground, 12 volt plus, and B4 in. What's on with that? Now this board has a jumper strap between these two, but here we don't. What is going on here? Okay, let's talk about that. Okay, ground needs to be grounded, and make sure that it's grounded to the frame. We've done a job before where there was a ground wire, but it was floating. It wasn't grounded to the frame. Apparently the battery was never grounded to the frame. It was just going back to the battery, but it wasn't grounded to the frame of the RV. For the entire AquaHot, this is your pumps, your burner, all of the cozy heaters throughout the entire coach. They all get their power from right here, okay? That is to say that in your loops throughout your coach, the front loops, the back loops, they all have these little cozy heaters, about the size of a boot box or a shoe box. They have the hoses from the antifreeze connecting them all, and so they're all in series, all daisy chained through the coach. You have a front loop that goes towards the front, and you have a back loop that goes towards the back. And we'll get into that with some of this here in a second. And so I guess what I'm saying is all those cozy heaters, there's little fans on board those fans. Well, all those fans and all that comes from this source right here, okay? So we need to make sure we have really good voltage right here. If I go below 10.5 volts, this whole thing just goes dumb. If you notice that your, where is it called? The, what is it? Not the overload fault. Which one is it? The low voltage reset. Here, low battery voltage fault, that'll turn red on us. It's this one right here, okay? If it turns red, you have two options to reset that. One is to restore your power and then reach in with this little hole right here, where my finger is, right there, and either hit this reset button, or you could just turn off all the switches inside of your coach for 30 seconds and then turn it back on. That does the exact same thing as hitting this reset button. So you don't ever have to hit this button. You could just turn your switches off for 30 seconds. So, but let's go back to this jumper here. If you look at the board again, I, at a minimum, would want ground and 12 volts plus. At a minimum, I at least need that. So what's with this other one over here? And why is it jumpered here and not here? Let's say that your AquaHot is running. Everybody's happy. We're taking long showers. We've got we're comfortable with all of our heat zones. Everything's wonderful. And somebody leaves the coach. The AquaHot's running. The AquaHot's producing its heat, and everybody's happy. But somebody leaves the coach and hits the battery disconnect switch to turn the coach off. Well, this AquaHot, when it turns itself off, normally, naturally, it needs a 3-minute post-purge. It needs 3 minutes to cool itself down. But if you hit the battery disconnect and you took power away from this lug right here, this thing shuts down. And all your cozy heaters turn off and everything just shuts down, denying this AquaHot of its 3 minutes post-purge. Not very healthy, not very happy. And so this second wire over here, this one, is going to go to the battery directly, so that even if this one in the middle might go through your disconnect switch, so that if you're going to put your RV in storage, you can actually hit your disconnect switch, everything's happening. But if you hit your disconnect switch and the AquaHot's on, then we're going to get this guy, which should, according to the specification and the diagrams, this one should go directly to the battery, do not pass go. Of course, it's fused. To allow this unit to finish, it's going to turn itself off to allow itself to finish its 3-minute purge. So it's kind of like a safety valve, if you will, to allow the AquaHot to turn itself off. So that's what's going on with these three lugs. The one in the middle and the one on the right, we need 12 volts there. And a lot of times, a lot of you will have this little jumper wire right there. Okay, so that explains these switches right here, these lugs right here. Now we've got that figured out. We also know that this is the RV side and this is the AquaHot side. And so let's, oh my gosh, there's so many wires. What do I do? Eek! So years ago, I was doing a video on an AquaHot. I think it was an annual service. I think it may have been the one where the nozzle was dirty and that was the whole problem. But I had a little blue Radio Shack switch box, and people were asking me all these questions about what that was all about. If you do not have this switch, that's fine. You just have to run inside out of the RV multiple times to do these testings and things like that. So when I started working on these things in 2011, I had a Radio Shack box with some switches, and I just basically, so that is to say, this connector right here, the whole purpose of this connector right here is it talks to your switch interface inside the coach, okay? So all I did was I'm like, well, I got my Radio Shack box, and I think Radio Shack was still in business back then, and so I just unplug this harness and plug mine in, and then I'm able to start the AquaHot from right here and do my diagnostic testing all from right here. Okay, so this is a tool that I make. It's available. You can get to it on our website, myrvworks.com. Navigate your way around. On the first page, it's an orange box, talks about Darren's tools. And I make a lot of other tools too. But it's gotten fancier than my Radio Shack box. I got a 3D printer with a groovy little connector to protect your wires. And I made it so that it kind of comes out at an angle, so you're not interfacing with your JP1 connectors. So anyway, this connector right here, the big mystery of all these wires, is they go in and they control all your switches inside of your coach to turn on your engine your boiler, your electric, and your engine preheat. All that is to say, all these wires are all for these switches and the lights, okay? Well, that pretty much took this out of the equation. That's pretty easy. Okay, so now we got this big guy, and this is where a picture might come in handy. If I were to take this big giant plug and this big long thing, gee, if you look at the silkscreen printing on this, and like I said, we're going to do a close-up picture on you. Let's just start at the bottom. I've got number 1 THERMI, number 1 THERMO. I got a number 1 fan minus and a number 1 fan plus. Okay, that's the bottom 4 wires. And then guess what? The next 4 wires are for number 2. And the next four wires are for number 3. The next 4 wires are for number 4. And the next 4 wires are for number 5. So I can have up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zones. Look, lights. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights. I can have up to 5 lights. Or 5 lights. Yeah, 5 lights. 5 different heating zones. So this big long thing with all these wires going up and down of it, that has everything to do with the 5 zones. Now, I don't know that I've ever seen in an RV situation 5 zones, but you have to remember that AquaHot does not make these just for RVs. They make them for yachts, they make them for construction equipment. You'll see these on garbage trucks, you'll see these AquaHot systems on like heavy equipment where they have to, in the cold climates where they have to heat their antifreeze or their hydraulic systems. So in our world, we're only exposed to these things in an RV, but they make them for a lot of different market segments, okay? And so those different market segments might benefit from some of these additional zones. But in an RV, typically I'll see 3 or sometimes 4, okay? But all I'm saying is that, like, it's just 4 wires times 5, okay? So let's just look at this bottom one. So I have thermostat input, thermostat output, okay? Well, if you've watched any of my furnace videos, like your normal, LP furnace videos that you'd find on an RV, we talk about those furnace videos. We talk about how 2 blue wires leave that furnace, go into the village, is what I've usually said. They go into the village, they get connected, and then they come back. And that's the call for heat signal for that furnace. So if it makes sense when we're talking about RV furnaces that those, so like on a regular furnace, not AquaHot, we're just talking about a regular furnace, your Suburban, your Dometic, your Atwood furnace, they have 4 wires, a plus, a minus, and 2 blue wires, okay? And the 2 blue wires, one's always 12 volts hot, goes out, gets a connection either from a wall thermostat or from a dry contact closure inside of your air conditioner, plenum control board, or on some of your Colemans, they get connected directly out the thermostat itself. But one of them is 12 volts hot, and it comes back, it gets connected, and it comes back on that blue wire, giving a call for heat to the furnace, okay? Same thing here, guys, same thing. So on my thermostat wire, I got a thermostat I and a thermostat O. The thermostat O is going to have 12 volts leaving this. Where's the 12 volts coming from? From right down here. So I get 12 volts coming into my board. I have the O means output. That wire is leaving at 12 volts, goes into the village, just like our RV furnaces does. And it's looking for that same contact closure that we had with our regular RV furnace. And as soon as it gets contact closure from a call for heat, because that zone called for heat, or that thermostat called for heat, or anything called for heat, it cut contact. In some of these AquaHots, you might even find these little coily, old school mercury type thermostats with a little twist dial on it. Well, guess what? It's a call for heat, okay? So basically I got 12 volts leaving, and as soon as I get 12 volts coming back in on my thermostat I, that tells the board, hey, we got a call for heat, guys, in zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? So that's wonderful. So that just solved the riddle of this thermostat I, thermostat O, didn't it? Okay, now let's move up to fan 1 and fan 2. Well, the way the AquaHots work is you have this big antifreeze, boiler antifreeze loop. One loop goes to the front, one loop goes to the rear, and the boiler antifreeze leaves here at 180 degrees and starts coursing its way through all these loops of heater hose. They work their way through the cozy heaters, daisy chained 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way through the cozy heaters. Fans behind the cozy heater turn on and blow through the radiator in the cozy heater, and that's where you get your heat inside your coach. In the next video that we're going to be covering, we're going to talk a little bit more about that, because that's the problem with this customer. Those, either the cozy heaters aren't working, the fans aren't working, the pumps aren't working. We're going to follow the trail in the next video. So like I said, I'm not going to get into that in this video, but if you navigate your way down to the description of the video, that's where we'll find all the links. The whole series of this whole AquaHot troubleshooting thing, you'll be able to find it down there. And another place you'll be able to find it is on our playlist. You can go to the our YouTube playlist, and we'll have, it's either going to be under furnaces. I might put it also under water heaters. And I'm definitely going to start a new playlist called AquaHot, because we're starting to get more and more AquaHot videos. I think it's time to have its own dedicated AquaHot playlist. So look for that. So on our YouTube channel, you'll find playlists. But staying with this, thermostat in, thermostat out, I have a call for heat in zone 1. And so this board is going to say, it's going to do a lot of other things, which we're going to get into on this side. But now when when our status light turns on, we're going to energize fan plus and fan minus. Well, what's the fan? Those are the fans on the cozy heaters. Okay, so that is to say, now you can have up to 2 amps coming out of here. That is to say, you could have 2, 3, or 4 cozy heaters all daisy chained off of this one output, up to 2 amps. Okay, so that makes sense. So here's our switch interface inside of our coach. It even says, what is it? Diesel, electronic, preheat, and indicator light. It tells you right here on the silk screen what these wires do. And really what we've gotten taken care of right now is we understand the JP2 terminal, and now we understand pretty much the entire JP1 terminal. It's just thermostat in, call for heat, fan 1, and then times 5. These lights, they will turn either green or red or off. All 3 of those lights, either going to be a green light, a red light, or an off light. If it's an off light, obviously, guess what? It's not running. If it's a green light, then it means that there's a call for heat in that zone, call for heat in that zone. If it's a red light, that means there's a fault somewhere. Okay, so these opaque colored LED bulbs can be either green or red. Now up here you have one that's only green and only red. Here we have one that's only red. But most of these lights, most of these LEDs can turn different colors. Green is go, or status is what they call it. Red, fault, and clear. Okay, now let's continue on with our JP3 and JP4 plug. Over here, all you have to do is look at the silk screen, and it will tell you LLCO, low level cutout, okay? Thermostat, AC relay, okay? It just follows on down. The stir pump, pump 1, pump 2, pump 3, okay? So basically you have, like, I'm starting at the bottom here. It says pump 3 minus, pump 3 plus. Well, gee, what do you think's coming out of this thing? Now we're talking to the AquaHot side, aren't we? So if I energize this at 12 volts, 12 volts is coming out of here, plus and minus, turning on that pump. Pump 2, 12 volts to the pump 3, you get the idea. A lot of times when you're diagnosing this thing, you could do some diagnosis without even taking the cover off, because on some of you, you're going to have a plunger switch where when you take the cover off, that plunger switch is going to deactivate the whole thing. So a lot of times you could do some diagnosis right from here. If you know what you're looking at on the back side, you can take your meter and probe onto the back side of this, or sometimes you can get it on the front side. I've seen these things like this one. It's going to be hard for me to get my meter, but I can go right on top of the screw terminal or right on the back. Okay, so this whole interface here has everything to do with our pumps. These are the things on the bulkhead wall and on the base plate of your AquaHot right inside when you take the cover off. This final port here, if you look at it, it's going to say B1, C7, C1, B2. That's all about this guy right here. Here's our B plug, B1. If you look at this, the B plug, the C plug, I've got a B1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a C1 through 8. Okay, so that is how this board, using this connector down here, communicates to the control module. This is the diesel, the burner control module, and the burner control module is a subsystem of this. Okay, so you got your master control, you got your blower motor and all these. So this is basically barking marching orders to this subsystem. This subsystem is the one that's running your entire diesel burner operation. Now, these things are pricey. Back in the day, they used to be $900. Now I'm seeing them down to $700. And if this is faulted out, you're not going to have a diesel burner. You'll still have your electric heating element, but you're not going to have your diesel burner. And so you need to make sure, a lot of times people replace these, but the challenge is, well, maybe it was a control thermostat, or maybe it was a low-level cutout, or maybe it was your photo eye was dirty, or maybe your motor's not good, or maybe it's your coil. And so what I've done for this is I make these little RV tech cards. Okay, now this is an old version 1. I think I'm up to version 5 right now. And so these were just laminated that I was carrying around for a long time. The ones we make for you now, I've got the nice fancy plastic PVC printer, like credit card type printing. And so they're nicer and a little bit more information on them. But what you're able to do with these RV tech cards, and this is another tool that we make, and a lot of times people will buy these at the same time. They'll buy a switch and the cards. And it makes it really nice to just connect it right here and flip your switch on and off, on and off, on and off, because a lot of the diagnosis you're doing, you need to do it from the off state. So I made these because, and the switch, because I'm running in and out of the coach, flipping a switch to come out to do a test, go back in, and I needed to hold my meter on the back of these things. It was just a pain. So having the switch, having the cards, I've created 7 procedures to diagnose if this is in fact good or bad, giving you a pretty high level of confidence that this is something you're going to need to replace or not replace. Following the 7-step procedure that I've got here, you know, basically, let's just pick this guy right here. So you're going to take your red lead here and your black lead there on your connector, okay? And then you're going to basically do what I have written here to do the test to find out if your burner control ground circuit is intact, okay? And so there's seven steps to check that, to make sure this is right. That happened because I basically told a customer that this is what was bad. We buy a new one. Guess what? The new one wasn't any better than the old one. And it come to find out that I misdiagnosed this product, and they wouldn't take it back. So that was a $700 mistake that I had made because I think it was a coil that had gone bad. But I never test. I just like, okay, it's not working. It's got to be this. And the coils are $500. So all these parts are expensive. So this card stack goes to troubleshoot and diagnose this, but many other things as well. As you're working your way through diagnosing this, what I would highly recommend is get a copy of the service manual. You can get the service manual directly from AquaHot or even our website, myrvworks.com. Under the resources tab, we have manuals. Just navigate yourself to our AquaHot manuals, find your model, and then we have service manuals there as well. Honestly, I think I might have a couple more pieces of information in our library that we make available than AquaHot does. Of course, all the stuff came from AquaHot. It's just easier to find on mine than on theirs. But I don't have it all. But anyway, so when you're diagnosing, so let's say your cards here told you that there's something wrong with this. That's where you would then, I don't want to get into this video on how to diagnose all these different things, but that's where you would get into your service manual, and it's going to go component by component by component on how to diagnose the low-level cutout, how to diagnose the pump. Okay, so in that instance, let's get the manual and let's start just finding the page. I call it 3 paragraphs, guys, but let's find the page on how to diagnose the control thermostat or how to diagnose the photo eye with your little flashlight and getting your readings off of that. So with that, let's just finish up this talking about other things about this board here. So what's with the status light? So basically what I've covered is we've talked about the input power coming in here. This has to be right. If it gets below 10.5, you're going to have a problem. And once you restore your power, you can either hit the reset button or turn off all your switches inside, wait 30 seconds, turn them back on, you're good to go. Here's your switch. This is all your call for heat and turning on your cozy heaters. This is everything on the bulkhead inside of your AquaHot or on the base pan of your AquaHot right inside the cover. This is all about this burner control module, okay? So that's pretty simple. And the silk screens basically tell you what to do. If you are diagnosing something, I like to have the service manual with me, and it goes component by component on how to troubleshoot and diagnose. Let's talk about these little jumpers here. There's 4 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4. So AquaHot manufactures this control board that can work for multiple units, the 650s, of 450s, of 400s. And the way this board knows what it's talking to is a position of these jumpers. So it's a good idea to have referencing. Okay, so what I'm saying is when you get a copy of your service manual and you're wondering what's going on, sometimes it's good just to make sure these jumpers are in the right place, that they haven't fallen off, if they need to be connecting two pins. Because if the jumper configuration is for a 650, you have a 450, you're gonna have a problem with it trying to understand what it's doing. So a quick low-hanging fruit thing to do is just make sure your jumpers are all in the right position. But the status lights. Now, personally, I do not like what AquaHot has called these things. Let's look at this one first. The low temp cutoff status. Low temp cutoff status. That is the, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be politically correct. That is the stupidest thing to name that light. It really is. It makes no sense to me. So this light turns on. So we turn on our AquaHot. Our AquaHot's on. It's on right now. Okay. So what this light means, the green light that's on right now, here I'll cover my, see how the green light right there? That is the low temp cutoff status. Well, what low temperature cutoff status? Well, does that mean that the low temperatures cut off or on, or what does that mean? Basically what it's saying is that the domestic hot water is not flowing. Okay, so if we turn on our domestic hot water, that light will turn off. Did you get that out of the low temperature cutoff status? I don't. So basically what this is saying is there's no hot water running through the system. Okay, the AquaHot is off right now, but if it was on, then this green light would be on. If the switch is on, if somebody turned the switch on, that light turns on. So a lot of times you could tell the difference between this switch being on and this status light down here to determine if the, oh, okay, let's talk about it. So if your AquaHot is at temperature and everybody's happy, the AquaHot takes about 15 minutes plus or minus, depending on ambient temperature and all these other variables. But the AquaHot takes about 15 minutes to go from ambient temperature, depending on what that temperature is. Right now it's what, about 65 or so, up to 180 degrees, okay? When it gets to 180 degrees, the AquaHot will turn off, but your status light will stay on, meaning I am satisfied, but I will start back up again if I need to. And so you start turning on your different zone heats. These will turn green based off of the zone. The next video we're going to be getting into, we're going to actually be firing this thing up and seeing it. And starting with the zones, we expect the pumps to turn on, okay? Now, let's talk about pumps. Pump 1 is loop 1, pump 2 is loop 2, but pump 1 is going to control zones 1 and 5, okay? So if you have a zone 1 and a zone 5, then when pump 1 turns on, that's going to control zones 1 and 5. The manufacturer of your coach should have figured out that pump 1, zone 1 and 5 are going to be in the front half, or however they ran their loop. This could be in a boat, it could be on a garbage truck, it could be on a D9 bulldozer, whatever, I don't know. But pump 1 is pumping through zones 1 and 5, okay? So that is to say, if I get a call for heat on zone 1 or zone 5, that's going to correspond to pump 1. Pump 2 is zones 2, 3, and 4. So if I get a call for heat for zone 2, 3, or 4, it's going to correspond to pump 2 turning on. Pump 3, I don't like the term pump 3. I would rather this be called stir pump. The stir pump on the 450, basically, if I do not if my heating status is on and my AquaHot is running, I need to stir my tank, don't I? I want to know what the temperature is at my control thermostat. Now, if we could bring the camera in here, but if this is the bulk, yeah, let's do it. This is the bulkhead wall of, if I take the cover off and I'm looking inside of my AquaHot, here's my Webasto burner right here. Up in this corner is my control thermostat, okay? So the control thermostat's up here, the burner's down here, the stratification of the water, maybe it's hotter down here than here. So there's a pump that takes the fluid from the top corner to the bottom corner and just stirs the tank. That's pump 3's job. So pump 3 is my stir pump. It's just stirring my tank so that I can get an accurate reading way over here of what the boiler antifreeze in here is. About 6 gallons plus or minus of boiler antifreeze in my tank. So pump 3 is my stir pump. They call them summer pumps. I don't know why they call it a summer pump. To me, it's a stir pump. But you would never have a situation where pump 3 is on and either pump 1 or 2. If pump 1 or 2 or both turn on, 3 turns off. So in other words, that is to say, if this is my stir pump, there's really no reason to be stirring my tank if I'm coming through either one of these two loops, okay? So if these loops are off, stir pump's on. If these loops are on, stir pump's off. Pump 1 goes to zones 1 and 5. Pump 2 goes to 2, 3, and 4. Okay. If I have any red lights here, then that means that there's a problem. Typically, the pump has failed internally. You have to replace it. I've got a video on replacing pumps. You have to drain all your boiler antifreeze out. If it's still new, you can put it back in. Sometimes we also replace it, but now it's up to the customer what they want to do. It's their unit. The heating element is a heating element. Heating element is basically secondary heat. You're not going to be able to take a long hot shower on your heating element. The engine preheat pump, a lot of times when you're driving down the road, hey man, you could totally flip that switch on, and what you're going to do, leave your, where's my thing? If you're traveling down the road, you can easily leave your burner off, leave your electric on, but turn on your preheat, your diesel preheat pump. And what that's going to do is that's going to help heat your water. It's circulating the water through the antifreeze of the engine. It's its own separate loop. You're not mixing engine antifreeze and the AquaHot antifreeze, but that loop goes to the engine, heats it all up, and so by just having your diesel preheat switch on, you're circulating that, and you could probably take a hot shower just from driving down the road. It wouldn't be unusual for you to be driving 4, 5, 6 hours with this on, and then you get to your campsite, you got hot water, and you've never had your diesel or your electric on. So there's a little trivia there. Anyway, so I want to kind of finish this up. If you have questions, drop them in the comments. I will look to those. Let me know what more information you have. I will steer everybody very hard to the service manuals on their particular unit. Some of the, like, what is this? I think the 400s do not have a stir pump at all, but the board's the same. And yeah, your 650s and stuff have a little bit of a different profile to them, which is all determined based off of these jumpers right here. So hopefully, let me finish this up so we can get on to our next video, but hopefully I just wanted to take some, I'm on my knees now, take a few minutes and just kind of dive a little bit into this. There's more that can be discussed on these, but I think that we've covered enough information where maybe the mystery does not hurt you anymore. Now, let's say that where you're located, you have a lot of AquaHot opportunities there, and you want to start a business working on AquaHots. Go to the school. It's a fantastic school. Read the manuals. Great. Watch all my videos. If you're interested in starting your own business, doing something like this, what Trisha, my work colleague, and I, what we've done is on our Patreon site, we have put together a how to start your own mobile RV service business series. I think it's like 50 something videos that we've got only available over on our Patreon site for those folks that support us on Patreon. And then we're working on a how to grow your business. And so maybe you like AquaHots. I think they're a blast. They're a lot of fun if you understand them. And so on our Patreon site, you can make a really lucrative living just traveling around becoming the AquaHot expert and servicing them at dealerships and RV parks. And then you can even go to rallies and things like that, just being the AquaHot guy or AquaHot gal. So hopefully these videos add value to you, but we do have other things for you. We have tools that you could use, tech cards that you could use. I am in the process of developing another interface for here and here to help diagnose it even more. So those will be coming. Keep an eye out on our page for new tools that I make as I get time. They're a lot of fun. And if you're interested in starting a business, check out our Patreon site because that's where we're storing all that content. And so if this added value to you, give us a thumb up. Thank you for your attention. Share this with your friends. And so happy campers say my RV works. And so we're going to carry on to the next video in this series where we're actually going to fire this thing up and start following the trail to see if we can't figure out why there's no heat in that front loop. All right. See you on the next video. Bye.